TV show around here with all the stuff he's got going. We've made 9 batches of cookies. And just a little bit ago, he decided to try something different just for the fun of it. So he made those little Christmas cookies. We're ready.
We're rolling. Well, good afternoon. This is Bill and Linda cooking show. We're working on Grandma Schroder's Dainty tea cookies. Decided to do a little lengthier than last year video of this because we actually just finished up our 9th batch, but it took us about 3 batches to try to get it right. So anyway, I thought I'd go ahead and while we're on a roll, try to videotape the way I work this, so that maybe next year I can look at it and see that everything's working okay. First thing you got to do is mix your dry ingredients. Now the dry ingredients is start off with flour. Now the recipe calls for 2½ cups of flour. But then the recipe says 2¼ cups of flour. And today I've been using 2⅛ cups of flour. The flour is what controls how thick the stuff is coming out of the machine. And so what you got to be real careful about is getting the texture just right. If it gets too dry, the machine is just going to labor and struggle and the cookies don't flow out good. If it's too wet, then they don't hold together worth a darn. So you got to play with it a little bit. And Grandma told Linda here several years ago that the type of flour, who knows what else can influence this stuff, but it is it's a variable. So all I can tell you is if it's too dry, cut back on the flour. If it's too wet, add a little more flour to it, and do it like by 1/8 of a cup kind of thing. So anyway, I'm using 2⅛ cups of flour. Then I use 2/3 cup of sugar. There's 1/3 cup and there's another 1/3 cup. And then take ½ teaspoon of salt and ½ teaspoon of baking powder. Take this, and although Mom gets aggravated with me for stirring it so much, I do like to mix it up well. I keep saying I don't like to bake. I don't have a big clump of baking powder. We don't use soda, we use baking powder. So I'll mix it up with a fork. Dry mix. It's nothing but a dry mix. And that should be pretty good. Okay, now the wet ingredients. Use another bowl. I like to use, this year anyway, I use a bowl out of the mixer. What I particularly like about it is the sides are up in the air, because when you start mixing this stuff you need something to push against. So put your wet ingredients in there. You need a cup of Crisco. These little containers here have exactly 1 cup. So I'll go ahead and put that in the bowl. I think I will. Then we need 1 egg, so we'll put that in there. And 1 teaspoon of almond extract. What I usually do is just pour it out, and when it starts to flow over a little bit, I pour it in. So it's actually maybe a little heavier than a teaspoon, but that's what I got. To mix that up, this was Mom's idea. I use this spatula, what do you call that? It's a spatula. It looks like a spoon, but you just sort of try to break up all the Crisco in here a little bit. And can you come in and take a look at this and see what I've done? Then I start sprinkling in the dry ingredients. Now I'll put a little bit in, and using this little spoony thing, I'll mix it around a little bit. And then I'll go and I'll put a little more in there. I'll mix it around a little bit more. I think you better back up a little bit, baby. You're gonna get flour and cookie dough in your lens. And I just keep doing it about like that till I get all the dry ingredients added. It gets stiffer and stiffer and tougher to mix in, as you can see. The one thing that you'll see hopefully at the end of this, it looks like it's terribly dry, and you know, it's really going to be a royal pain, but it will moisten up a bit. Put the last of that in there. And mix it around, mix it around. And you can see it's really sort of a dry, stiff mess. You try to get most of the flour at least started in there. That's what you end up sort of looking like. Now comes the fun part. You can't do this without getting in and enjoying it. So I'll just go in, and I always called it squeezing, but Mom said it's kneading the dough. So mixing the dough in. So what I'm trying to do is just trying to get it, as I push on it, it feels real damp and moist in spots, but then it starts gathering up the other stuff in there. You see it start to form into a ball. And so I just keep on doing this. You can start to see it's going to almost all gathered up in there. When we get this ball together, knead the ball, knead the dough, whatever. See, it's starting to look moister than it did a little bit ago. I will continue to do this for a little bit to try to make sure that all this stuff is mixed in real well. But you start to see that what I'm dealing with here is something that reminds you of like Clay-Doh or Play-Doh or whatever you used to call that stuff. Now, go in and get of it out of there. But you can see it's sort of not too dry at all. This is you know, I've used some that's drier than this, but this works well. Have another left from the batch. I actually just mix it and spread it around a little bit as I go from to batch. Use all the dough. Okay, there's my batch of dough. Nice, sort of a clay mixture. What I do now is I'm going to get ready to put it in the little cookie gun shooter here. You have to take a look, see how I put it together, but you screw the little platform, or screw the thing into the little platform. Put that down in the machine. Turn that around, line it up with the edges. And there's your cookie machine. So then, what I need to do is take and I squeeze like little hot dogs or something here, little worms or something, so that they fall down on the sides, or try to get them to fall down on the sides. And I'll take a knife and try to walk around with the back edge against the edge of the thing here. Jump up and down like I did there for a little bit with it. Take this plunger, smash it down in. Usually I see some more. I'll go around it again. What you want to try to do is make sure there's no air pockets in there. And the reason you don't want air pockets is as you start to squeeze this stuff out onto the cookie sheet, if you have air pockets in there, it just starts to bust up and screw up your cookies. So if you're making the, which we mostly do, the ribbon cookies or whatever, I think it's what they're called, the ones that great grandma Schroder, I'm sorry, made, then you have to try to do that pretty good to make sure that you got a nice steady stream going out of this machine. Like I said, when we started today, our first batch we used 2 1/4 cup of flour, and then it barely squeaked out of the machine. Now what I did do is to sort of try to use that dough. I added just a little bit of water by just taking a bowl and dipping my fingers in the bowl and mixing it in with the dough. Try to use it, and the cookies will be all right, but it's the key or the need to try to get this texture just right is not for the taste of the cookie, it's for it to flow out of that this machine fairly decently. I still see some air pockets in here. Do at the end, just shove that knife
Further down.
Yep.
Can you see it?
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, I just use the back edge of this against the edge of the dealie there. Alright. Then I take and I look for my little ribbon cookie cutter thingy. Put it on the top. Squeeze this down. And then run the stuff up to the top. Now normally, Mom helps me out here by cutting off the ribbon at the end. I'm going to try to do this by myself so she can keep filming. But if you can come up and see this, I don't know if you can see that hunt or not, but just, so you're up above it. Oh, she's even going to try to cut it with a knife. But you start it, and then you start to pull. You got to pull nice and steady. And then stop, and that's where she cuts. And you do another one. And then you just keep going like that, and you try to get a nice steady pull. And if you do, they come out pretty nice. Alright, now this is usually Mom's job when she's jumping in there and doing it. She's pushing it all this stuff. I'll go ahead and so what we usually do now is cut them before we put them in the oven. And so you can, a strip on a cookie sheet, you can usually get like 5 cookies out of it. I usually do it that way. You sort of slide them. I'm going to mess them up. This is Mom's job. But you get the general idea. But you see the flow out of that machine was really pretty decent. And if it isn't, you'll start getting these cracks on the side, and the thing will want to try to curl up sideways, and it gets pretty queer looking, and so you'll know right away if it's too thin or too thick. These things don't want to. What you do when you mess up something like that is you squeeze it up and you throw it back in the pan. Anyway, all right. Now that's it for now. We're going to put them in the oven at 375, And we're going to cook them for about 6 minutes, although Mom takes a close eye on it because sometimes they're ready before then. That's about it. Good luck.